name is Dixie Rain. I'm the board chair for MSCD 54. On behalf of the school board, I want to thank everyone for coming this evening. The purpose of this meeting is to create a forum for members of the public to share their thoughts on the issue concerning the Indian name. At our Skowhegan area schools, the board realizes that many of you are passionate in your opinions on this issue, and we are hopeful that this evening and the process for speaking will allow as many voices to be heard as possible. This is not a debate or discussion with the board. Rather, this is a forum to allow public comment to inform the board. We ask that speakers direct all comments to the board and that comments be as succinct as possible and limited to the issue at hand. To this end, the board welcomes constructive comments that will help the board more fully understand the speaker's point of view on this important issue. We encourage comment focusing on the issue rather than comment that disparages and attacks individuals or groups. We ask each speaker to be respectful and honor the rules of the decorum. It is important to note that the board will not be voting or deliberating tonight. We will listen and at its future meeting consider what future next steps the board would like to take. I would like to now turn the meeting over to Michael Busher, who will be moderating the meeting tonight.
There you go. Perfect. Good evening. We're still vibrating.
Not like what I go for.
Clearly, we needed a better sound check. As Chairwoman Ring indicated, my name's Michael Busher. I'm legal counsel to the board, and I'll be moderating the meeting this evening. I want to thank you all for being here tonight. To ensure an ordered and fair process, the board has established the following guidelines. Speakers from both sides of the issue will be given opportunities to speak by alternating from those in favor of change and those against it. And I also understand that there are some people who have a neutral point of view, and that's fine too. The board will entertain only those speakers who registered to speak in advance. Sign-ups were held in the cafeteria and closed at 6 p.m. No additional speakers will be allowed to sign up following the closing of the sign-up period. The board will only call and recognize speakers who signed up in advance of following the process described above. Speakers are going to have 2 minutes to speak. Time is going to be kept by Support Services Director Dave Levitt, and names will be announced by the Assistant Superintendent, Jonathan Moody. When we announce the speaker, we are also going to announce the person who's on deck, so to speak. We have a chair behind the microphone there. Hopefully that will help us to efficiently keep people moving along. Speakers should begin by stating their name and town of residence. It's important that speakers keep their comments to the allotted time. Speakers will be given a warning when there is 20 seconds remaining and must finish their statement when time is announced. We also have the clock here so that people can see. That clock will start running when you tell us your name and your town of residence. Speakers will not be allowed to cede or give their allotted time to another speaker. The maximum time any one speaker can speak will be 2 minutes. The issue to be addressed this evening is as follows. Why should the district support or not support a change to the use of the Indian name and the seal at Skowhegan's area schools? I expect that this evening we will hear many different viewpoints, and what I ask up front is that we all maintain a kind and courteous atmosphere. This is a place for the board to listen. This is not a debate this evening. We ask that speakers direct all comments to the board and that they be succinct, directed to the issue at hand, and avoid repetition. The board welcomes constructive comments that will help the board more fully understand the speaker's point of view on this important issue. We encourage comments focusing on the issue rather than comments that disparage and or attack individuals or groups. We ask each speaker to be respectful and to honor the rules of decorum. Speakers will not be permitted to make defamatory comments or to use abusive or vulgar language. Disruptive individuals will forfeit their time to speak. As you can see this evening, we have many people who would like to be heard tonight. And in order for us to efficiently hear everyone, we need to make sure that we stick to the 2-minute time limit. We're going to be strict about that. If you continue to speak beyond your allotted 2 minutes, that will be considered disruptive behavior. We will turn off the microphone and you will be asked to leave. Any person who fails to comply will be escorted out by law enforcement. Tonight is not a public debate or conversation with the board, and the board will not be responding to comments. This meeting is a forum for the board to listen to the public who followed the process and signed up in advance to speak. As I said before, no additional speakers who are not already signed up in advance will be recognized from the audience. At this time, I would ask Mr. Moody to call our first speaker.
Good evening. As Mr. Boucher said, my name is Jonathan Moody. I'm the Assistant Superintendent here in MSAD 54. So I'm going to alternate through the lists. I will call 2 individuals. The person who's on deck, as he indicated, will sit. You can sit or stand in the chair, but we wanted to give you a location to try to allow for people to come up through quickly. First up to speak is Judy York, and second will be Adele Belanger. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Judy York and I am from Skowhegan. My family has lived in Skowhegan, Norwich Walk for over 100 years. I happen to be of French and Viking ancestry. I do not take offense when I see French words used as names or Vikings used as mascots. I'm quite proud, in fact. I've spoken each time this issue is brought up. I'm tired of the controversy. We have a name that has been used for years. Skowhegan and Norwich Walk are both Indian names. I'm proud to be from this town. I'm tired of people from other towns, states, and countries telling me what words I can use. I do not go to their towns, etc., and tell them what to do or say. I find it ironic that I am told not to say Skowhegan Indians, and yet on page B3 of the Morning Sentinel today, there is an article about Indian Island and meth labs. We in this town use the word, and again, I say it's a word, not a mascot, in pride, not as a put down or to ridicule. Everyone I have spoken to has said the same thing. It has always been a source of pride. We want to keep alive the original people of this area. We do not want to forget or ignore those who were here before us. We use the word Indian as a way to honor those who lived here. I'm proud to be a Skowhegan Indian. Please let us keep our heritage, our name, our pride, our honor. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next up is Adele Belanger, and next will be Joel Stetkis.
My name is Adele Belanger. I'm from Cornville. I am a current senior at Skowhegan. I want to start by acknowledging the common ground that we all have in this issue. First, we all want to be proud of our town. We all want to look our best for the rest of the state and the country, and we simply have different ideas of what this looks like. I wrote a letter to the editor that discussed how our mascot was seen by those from other towns as racist, and that I was embarrassed to be from Skowhegan. Since then, I've received some negative feedback. However, I've also heard other people's stories that were very similar to mine. I ask you to try and understand why others would see it that way, even if you do not. I ask you to think about how we, as a town, appear to others. My second point that I think most can agree with is that it would be wonderful to have a mascot. It would be so much fun to dress up as something, to paint imagery of our mascot on banners for homecoming weekend rallies, to put it on floats, jerseys, and gear, and to chant its name. With the Indian, we cannot do that, and we will never be able to. However, because we cannot do these things now, transitioning to a new mascot would be incredibly easy. The third connection that we all have in this issue is that we can agree it would be better for us to solve this locally. Governor Mills has stated numerous times that she plans on eliminating the mascot. Would it not be better for us to be adults and change it ourselves instead of someone else coming in and policing us? Wouldn't we like to show maturity? I ask for all of you to ask yourselves why you accept the mascot. You know that it is not respectful to Native Americans. You understand that for most of us, it is not our heritage to claim. I ask you to come together as a district and agree to move on. I am not an Indian. If we truly want to honor Native people, we will honor their request to retire the mascot. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we will have Joel Stekis, followed by Dwayne Toma.
Chairman Ring, school board members, thank you for this opportunity to share my thoughts tonight. My name is Joel Stekis. For the last 40 years, I have lived in Canaan, where I've spent most of that time serving our community in one capacity or another. I'm a 1984 graduate of Skowhegan Area High School. I'm a resident, and I'm a taxpayer. Skowhegan Indians to me is an idea. It's a sense of belonging, a sense of community. This idea is the fabric of who a lot of us are. The pride, the values, and the ethics that have been taught and built upon generation after generation. Skowhegan Indians to me is that teacher who convinced me that I could do better, and the coach who taught me to never give up. To me, Skowhegan Indians is much more than a painting or a sculpture. It is being part of a community that is bigger than yourself and taught me to work and serve with others. To me, the preservation of the Skowhegan Indians acts as a living monument or a reminder of classmates, teammates, and lessons learned and their influence on my life. Especially those classmates that are no longer with us, some of whom gave their life in service to our country, and it's this idea that helps keep them and their families in my thoughts and prayers. These are the things that define Skowhegan Indians to me, and it's unfortunate if somehow others perceive these ideals as hurtful or insulting. I have no control over how others wish to define me and my beliefs. I will say, though, that no amount of personal attacks or bullying will ever change the reality of the overwhelming positive influence and inspiration that the Skowhegan Indians idea has had on many thousands of people in our community. I am in hopes that tonight can be a lesson to our children and grandchildren that bullying and demonizing others should be unacceptable to all of us because we simply disagree. With this, I would ask this board to once again overwhelmingly say no to the question you have before you tonight.
Thank you. Dwayne Toma is up. And next will be Sean Poirier.
I'm squash that way out, Gillian. I'm squash that way out. Mara nelo no li har moon na way. Ello could ya Gilwall. God yud am kagan. God yud am kagan. BJ yud Gilon Diop Dine. BJ Nuje Al Zibaig. We have inhabited this region for thousands of years. Thousands, 10,000 years. We are not feeling honored tonight. This is hurtful. It's demeaning. We all have our opinions and we must be respectful. Indigenous people have been abused. Hurtful words are coming out of this whole situation. And it must be stopped. And you have the authority, as this body can do so. The bleeding must stop. As an Indigenous person, I'm not feeling honored at all. I really don't know what to say to you to convince you that this is wrong. It's wrong. So please, do the right thing and honor those children up there by not sending this message to them that it's okay.
Although I appreciate the applause, if you could limit that so we can move to the next speaker, I would appreciate it. Thank you. Next up is Sean Poirier. He will be followed by Mary Callan.
Again, I'm Sean Poirier and I'm a Skowhegan resident. First and foremost, I'm in support of maintaining the Skowhegan Indian name. I ask the board to look beyond the political grandstanding that happens here and the 15 minutes of fame people are seeking. Respect the vote that was taken in 2015. It wasn't just an 11-9 vote. The margin was 482 to 391 in favor of maintaining our Indian name. The state of Maine has deemed this a local control issue. That's why it is what it is now today. The board needs to get back on point and do what the citizens elected you to do. You create and implement a budget of over $33 million. You are constantly improving our school systems. Thank you. We appreciate the real work you do. The Skowhegan Indian name should not be a topic that is continuously revisited. Months of information were laid out to you in 2015. The process and the work of previous boards should be respected. I and many others ask you do not entertain the discussions or another vote. Keep Skowhegan the Indians. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next up is Mary Callan, to be followed by Alex Poirier.
Good evening, I'm Mary Callan and I live in Belgrade, but I am from Skowhegan. I graduated in the class of 1975 and have strong roots still in this community. I still have a lot of family that lives here. While I was a student at Skowhegan, I certainly was very involved in sports, government, everything. I have a really strong identity with Skowhegan. That being said, after graduating in 1975, I became an educator, and still am, and have had the great opportunity to meet lots and lots of people from not just Maine, from around the country. And I have learned that my view isn't the only view, and that the Native Americans in this room tonight, and when I was here a short while ago, a few weeks ago, and for several years have been telling us what this message gives to them. That's what matters to me, is that it doesn't really matter what my opinion is. It matters what it does to that culture and those people. So what I said to the folks this morning on the board, because I didn't know if I'd be able to be here tonight, was a bunch of position statements from all kinds of organizations. Research-based, which I hope that matters to this board. It certainly does, I think, to educators in general, but it should to the board as well. I just want to close with two statements that I think are particularly struck out to me from those different things that I sent you earlier. Schools that continue to use imagery and references claim that their use stimulates interest in Native American culture and honors Native Americans. These institutions have simply failed to listen to the Native groups, religious leaders, and civil rights organizations that oppose these symbols. And one last statement, 7 seconds, so I can do it quick. Decisions made in different areas that no longer reflect who we are and our strong values should not be accepted.
Thank you. Next up, we have Alex Poirier, followed by Skylar Louie.
Hello, my name is Alex Poirier. I am a 2017 graduate of Skowhegan Area High School and a resident of Skowhegan. Many of the reasons why I think that you should not change the Skowhegan Indian name will be mirrored in the testimony of others, so I will take a brief moment to share about how Skowhegan Area High School gained a school seal. The 1926 Lever Yearbook tells of how a school seal was needed. People look to the traditions and the origin of our town for inspiration. A brief excerpt reads, "We let our imagination take us back to centuries when the smoke of Indian wigwams rose in every valley throughout the vast territory of Skowhegan, the summer camping ground of our early inhabitants. What could be more appropriate or more appealing for an inspiration than the story of our naming of our town? Each spring brought the brave warrior and his tribe to Skowhegan, where he fished for salmon in the deep pools below the rapids of the mighty Kennebec. Skowhegan was Skowhegan to the Indians and meant a place to watch. Two students collaborated to create the seal that accurately depicted the area's history. The seal is still in use today, 93 years later. The origin is important because the name Skowhegan Indians is much more than a high school nickname. It is woven throughout our town. It is a history that we are proud of and history that we respect. Many of us are not tribal members, but have lineage traced back to Native Americans. The Skowhegan Indian name is a celebration of our town's history and our own history. I ask you to choose to keep the Skowhegan Indian name that so many of us hold dear. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Skylar Louie, followed by Charlie Bertrax.
Denegog, in the Lewis Skylar, UJL Burnwellsgate. I am Skylar Louie, I'm 15, and I live on Burnwellsgate, Maryland. I'm here willingly to speak on my own behalf. Racism comes in many forms, such as betraying my culture as a way to celebrate your school spirit. Although it may seem as if you're respecting my culture, it's doing just the opposite. Most of the people who attend the school or claim to be a proud Indian don't know what it's like to be one. You don't know our stories, our songs, our dances, foods, or medicines. How can you claim this with respect? You all know the stereotypical Native American who wears a headdress, but respecting our culture takes time. It's not as a game or as a mascot. Our people are dying off. The language is going to be non-existent, and I'd rather be there helping and making that change. I am trying to fight off this mascot that is disrespecting every indigenous people out there. Our land was stolen. We got full rights in 1966 for being the first people here, and genocide still lives with us to this day. So when you're voting on this mascot, think about how the minorities feel. I also want to take a moment to recognize your students. Your students did talk earlier saying that she was in support of changing the mascot. Shouldn't your students be the first person that you look at to support your school? Shouldn't that be the one thing that you look at and think, oh, our students need this change, our students want this change? Make that change. Don't let my kids, my youth council feel like we're going nowhere with this. That's how we feel. Coming to these forums, having to keep speaking, when is the Skowhegan Indian going to be retired? We don't feel as it's safe. We don't feel comfortable coming into the school. We don't want to be here, but on this behalf, it's racist and it's not respectful to anyone. Thank you.
Next up is Charlie Bertrax by Dylan Smith.
My name is Charlie Bertrax, and I'm from Mercer, Madison, and Skowhegan. Take your pick. And what I have here is a strip of paper, orange on one side, white on the other. I wanted to use black. I couldn't get black, so my cat self-substitute some black cat hairs. Represents two sides of an argument. Okay? Let the orange represent to keep it, the white change it. I have here a ring. Obviously, what I did with this ring is I wrapped that around. It's two-sided, okay? This is what's happened right now. It represents the situation right now. On one side, we have to keep it. One side, we have to change it. No matter what I do, the only way to get to the other side is to cross over this edge here, which might as well be the no man's land between the trenches of World War I. I have here another ring. I made this ring from the same strip of paper. Instead of folding it around and joining the keep-its with the keep-its and the change-its with the changes, I applied half a twist and got them talking to each other. This ring, if I start here, I can go all the way around, wind up back where I was. It's got one side. There is a way to get there. It's called peace and unity. When I put my name on the chart, they didn't have a peace and unity. They just had to keep it and to change it. There is a way to get there. I have some suggestions, but I obviously only have 2 minutes. And if anybody from both sides wants to get together later, I'd be happy to make some suggestions and maybe we can make some progress here. Thank you.
Next up is Dylan Smith. On deck is Ken Gordon.
Here, have some rings.
Hi, my name is Dylan Smith. I live in Oregon right now. I'm the president of the Native American Student Organization at the University of Maine, Oregon, and I'm also here with the Mascot Nation Youth Council where I work with. First off, I would like to engage you as a friend, not an enemy on two sides of a debate, as a friend, and a peaceful way of coming together and working together to change a problem that has been in this community for some time now. I would also like you to look at us and all of the people I came here with as humans with emotions and feelings. Feelings and emotions that are hurt by this mascot. I would like to ask all of the board members, and you don't have to answer this, but think to yourself, how many of you have ever been a minority or marginalized as a person, ever felt unsafe to go somewhere just because of the way you look or who you are? Can you relate to this in the same way that the Indian means the same thing to us? This Indian does not promote a good feeling amongst Native American people. It promotes so much, not just the mascot, but it promotes our, certain gestures, feelings, actions to take place and to be used against someone or towards someone. It's not about always the mascot and what it represents, but what the people do with the mascot. In the end of this, would you rather have your students and other people feeling unsafe in your community, in your school, or give them the option to feel safe, honored, and respected? Thank you.
Next up is Ken Gordon.
Good
And
evening.
on deck is Dr. Allison Dorco.
Good evening. My name is Ken Gordon. I was born and raised in this community. Left when I was 18 years old, spent over 21 years in the Army. Then the next 24 years after that, still in support of my country and national security program. So I have in my entire career supported every American to help keep you safe. I understand your feelings, but I was born and raised in Skowhegan, and the Skowhegan Indian team spirit is what I'm going to carry with me as long as I live. We always honored that name, and in my heart and in my mind, I will always honor it. And it's no disrespect to you. It's a local team spirit thing for me. Simply speaking, I think this should go to another vote within the district, to the residents of this district, to decide this matter once and for all. And however the vote comes out, we'll all stand by that. Thank you.
Next up is Dr. Allison Dorco, to be followed by Nicole LaChapelle.
My name is Dr. Allison Dorco. I am a Skowhegan resident. I was a 2005 valedictorian of Skowhegan Area High School. I have a PhD and I am an educational researcher. I am speaking as an expert in making educational decisions based on research and based on policy. Yes, the district should change the name and change the symbol. Failure to do so violates board policy. The board's ethics policy states that its first and greatest concern is its students. Students. Not the alumni who have attachment to the name or the symbol. Not the adults. By policy, the board is first and foremost responsible for the best interests of students. The board policy also states that it needs to make its decisions based on fact. That's where my expertise as a PhD comes in. The board picks curriculum like reading recovery because educational research says that works. You have made decisions on other things based on educational research, and that's what you need to do here. The research findings indicate that the use of Native American symbols and imagery are harmful to all students' intellectual and social development, all students and Native students in particular. The appendices of the written statement I gave you contains a list of the academic research journal articles, which are reliable sites. There's also a list of the professional organizations that support this because that's what the research says. So to summarize, your policies say you need to put the students first. Your policies say you need to make decisions based on facts. If you don't do that and follow the research, you're violating policy and you may be held legally liable. There is only one thing you can do here in good conscience for students' best interest, and that is change it.
Nicole LaChapelle, followed by Albie Barnard.
Hi, I'm Nicole LaChapelle, and I'm a Skowhegan resident, and it's nice to see names behind faces. I just want to start off by strong. This is a drum that my uncle made, who's part Native. Made this by hand and is used this personally in ceremony. Just wanted to have an opportunity for the drum to speak, for that silence, the rhythm, and the tone. I think it's beautiful that we can all come here and speak peacefully like this, and it'd be nice if that peace will remain despite the differences of opinion. I can't buy into thinking that this name is negative. As I've stated before, for me, Indian is not a bad thing. And it helps me to embrace my heritage, my roots, and a culture that is so important. And as was stated, it's going away. It's been in this community for so long. It's not a nefarious thing. This demonization of a name is really hard for me to even understand. There are so many people in the community I talk to that want this name to remain, and none of it is negative. It has everything to do with embracing our roots, a people, and lastly, communities are forged through rich history, solidarity, remaining steadfast, not through dealing with whims and offenses, even to the point that our Pledge of Allegiance, God could be removed from it.
Thank you.
Next up is Albie Barton, followed by Emily LaChapelle.
taught me one important lesson. Love the earth. This is my father's home. I've carried it for 65 years in my garden with him. Tonight, I have brought you a gift and an invitation. There are 4 parts to the gift, and they are seeds. They are seeds of peace, seeds of power, seeds of promise. In the packages here, which I'll bring to you, are seeds of Norwich Walk beans that go back hundreds of years. They were gifted to me by a family who descended from the survivors of the Norwich Walk massacre. And I was told by an Abenaki elder that they were going to play an important part in the healing of this land. Second is corn. We have been growing flint corn now and restoring it in Maine. This is an ear that I grew in front of our shop in Skowhegan. There's corn in here. I invite you to grow it, and everybody here, I have enough corn here and at home for everybody to plant a hill of corn and a hill of beans. And also in here, I have ash. Ash, as you may know, is where the first people say they came from. They were born from the ash. And finally, there's a little salmon that I cut out. And I suggest to you that we might consider that salmon is also central to what the watching place was all about. Perhaps salmon would be a good choice.
Thank you. Next up is Emily LaChapelle, followed by Roger Renfrew.
Hi, my name is Emily LaChapelle. I'm an 8th grader here at Skowhegan Area Middle School, and I've been in Skowhegan for most of my life. Many people are making the argument that we mixed-blood Native Americans are not Native enough. I would ask, why are we being punished for our ancestors reproducing with another race? Also, why is our Skowhegan Indian pride being stripped from this community? These are questions I have no answers for. This land is rich with culture. If you take our name away, you take our identity. As student athletes, my peers and I are connected with the Skowhegan Indian name. It has been said, you guys use the Indian just to win basketball games. How? We have not used our Indian name in any derogatory way. The future begins with us young people. So many students I have talked to want to keep our name. We as students have bonded with the title of Skowhegan Indians. It brings a sense of comfort knowing that when you are on the court, field, or even in the classroom, that we are Skowhegan Indians. We are not using the Indian as a mascot. We're not having some freshmen dress up at sports events and act foolish. So why is this battle even happening? And even if our title is taken away, we will always be Skowhegan Indians, and not for 4 years, but for life.
Next up is Dr. Roger Renfrew, and on deck is April Foss.
Hello, Roger Renfrew from Skowhegan. I hope that many of you had the opportunity to see, or at least to listen to the wise and articulate words of Molly and Dana, the ambassador of the Wabanaki Confederacy, at Janet Mills' inauguration. Today I'm going to speak from 2 of the themes that she raised. The first is that she spoke about ceremony. Ceremony is a yearly gathering of the Wabanaki to renew relationships with friends, families, and ancestors. It is a time to restore their relationship to culture and language, which has been under attack for over 300 years. This raises the question of who is Wabanaki. Genetics is only part of that. The to be truly Wabanaki, one has to be involved in trying to maintain that culture and that language and remain connected to it. She also spoke to respect, which is commonly spoken about today. We will know if our words and actions in general and in relation to this issue of the mascot and the Skowhegan school seal, we'll know that these words are respectful when the Wabanaki tell us that they are respected. This is really all there is to this issue. There's nothing else.
Next up is April Foss, and on deck is Kathy Wilder.
Hi, what I have to say is pretty easy. First of all, to my board, thank you very much. This has not been easy on any of you, and I know that. And I thank you for the time, the effort that you put into this. I guess my thought process on this is, you took a vote. You did it. Due process was done. I would ask as a Skowhegan taxpayer not to keep going through this and let it be done. No more votes. Be done with it. Thank you.
Next up is Kathy Wilder, and on deck is Richard Burns.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Kathy Wilder. I'm from Norwalk. I grew up on Wilder Hill Road, and I live there still today. I went K through 12 in the school system here, Norwalk Elementary School, Skowhegan Junior High, Skowhegan High School, graduating class of 1991. And I stand before you tonight to ask you to retire the mascot and to pick a new one. The kids today in school deserve to have a mascot that they can be proud of. And the community deserves to have a mascot that we can all get behind and fully support. I myself am so proud to be from the Skowhegan area. My family has lived in Norwalk since the 1800s. There's no place else I would rather live. I belong right here. And tonight, when I walked into this gym and I looked around, I see people I grew up with, I see people I went to grade school with, that I know from junior high and high school, and they got their kids with them and their parents. And I know that the one thing that unites us, no matter what side of this issue we're on, is we are all fiercely proud to be from the Skowhegan area. So the message that I want to send tonight is that we can change the mascot, we can get a new mascot, and still be proud about where we're from and where we're going. And the 4 tribes of Maine came forward some years ago and respectfully asked the school board to stop using the Indian. And it's the honorable thing to do to stop using the Indian, and it's the right thing to do to pick a new mascot. Thank you.
Next up is Richard Burns. On deck is Patricia England.
Good evening. I'm Richard Burns. I'm a 1958 graduate of Skowhegan Area High School. I do not live in Skowhegan anymore. I live in industry in St. Pete Beach, Florida in the winter. And I served as chairman of the school board probably 30 or so years ago. And I know what you're going through. But let me read a little something I wrote. I emailed this to Indian Pride, which I got results from. People liked it. I sent it to not our mascot, and they wouldn't accept it. So it was just a story of Skowhegan. I'm going to read it. Skowhegan, place to watch, symbolized by Native Americans, the original inhabitants of the town. It is a message of honor, courage, and bravery. I remember as a child growing up with my mother, going into the Boston Trust Company downtown. And there was a beautiful mural on the wall depicting an Indian fishing, Native American or Indian, fishing in the rapids of the Kennebec River before the dams are there. This image represents admirable qualities being a Native American. Meant then, as it does still today. It saddens me, and there are those who only wish to see the dark side of history. Not to continue to celebrate the amazing power and courage of the the Native American. Like I said, I'm a 1958 graduate of Skowhegan Area High School, and I am 100% in favor of keeping our mascot, and I thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Patricia England, followed by Shirley Hager.
I'm sorry, I'm a little short for this. Molly knows all about that. I am from Bangor. I'm not from Skowhegan. I'm here tonight to support my friend Molly and the 4 tribes of this area. I have some native quantum, but I don't consider myself native. This is so hard. I've been watching this whole thing, and people need to understand that if you do not live as a native, you're not considered native. You may have a blood quantum, but you're not considered native unless you actually live the culture. They have gone through a lot in the last 500 years. I think the least we could do would be to honor them the way they want to be honored, not the way we think they should be honored. I guess that's all I have to say.
Good evening. My name is Shirley Hager. I live in Chesterville. Tonight I am representing the Friends Committee on Maine Public Policy. Friends are also known as Quakers, and we represent Quakers throughout the state advocating for social justice. One primary focus is to do our part to improve the relationship between the state of Maine and our Wabanaki neighbors. I speak to you tonight as parents, as teachers, as school board members responsible for our youth. I myself was a 6th grade teacher. Even if you are not a parent or a teacher, you are an educator of youth, a role model by virtue of your words and deeds in this community. What do we try to teach our young people? Starting at home when they are toddlers and then in preschool and kindergarten, respect others, listen, ask permission, and don't take what doesn't belong to you. These are rules we teach children about how to treat other people. The Wabanaki are living, breathing, present-day people who are our neighbors. But a mascot is an abstraction, an oversimplified image. It doesn't tell you anything about a real person or a whole people. And when we make a mascot out of Indians, we also make them into an abstraction, a symbol, not real. We make it easy to relate to them as stereotypes. We give our children an inaccurate and outdated image, and one that can lead to the kinds of racist interpretations we see at sports events. And the Wabanaki are asking us to stop. I grew up in the segregated South in the 50s and 60s, and I've seen how it becomes possible for one group of people to ignore the wishes and desires of another group by objectifying them, stereotyping them, even denying them their personhood. Wabanaki people only ask that the school district treat them as we would treat any other person. Thank you.
Next up is Mary Stewart, followed by Sherry Mitchell. Stewart, followed by Sherry Mitchell.
These two sides will never agree on this and will never give up. So we will be having this same discussion for years and years unless you reframe the question. You were not elected to this board to get your needs met. You were elected to this board to meet the educational needs and support the well-being of all students, not just the ones who agree with you, all students. So the question is, how are you doing that? You must see that many students, including some of our best and brightest students and athletes, are not okay with this mascot. They see it as disrespectful or unkind at the least, morally wrong at the worst. What is your message to them? Sit down and shut up? Just keep your head down, you'll be gone in 4 years? If you feel that way, you shouldn't play sports. Really? Even though a school is a reflection of a community, none of the adults in this room are being required to call themselves anything. In fact, they are free to call themselves whatever they want. Yet we are requiring all students to carry the weight of this divisive nickname, not something that unifies them, but something that divides them. How is that honoring the Wabanaki? It isn't. How is that honoring and supporting these young people? It isn't. It's time to honorably and respectfully retire this mascot. It's time to let students choose a unifier, not a divider, something that will be a source of joy and fun for them, not something that they must consistently defend, deny, or explain over and over and over. So that's the real question. How is this mascot meeting the educational needs and supporting the well-being of all students? And thank you for your hard work.
Next up is Sherry Mitchell, followed by Susan Cochran.
Handelimusi, Wanahamugwasit, Najeo Bunawatskik. My name is Sherry Mitchell. I'm from the Penobscot Nation. I'm a citizen of the Penobscot Nation. I'm also an attorney practicing in the area of international indigenous rights, human and civil rights, and environmental justice. I have this big comment prepared, but there's a couple of things that I need to address. Somebody said that you proudly decided upon adopting this name in 1926. In 1926, the United States was going through what was known as the termination era. They were forcibly terminating tribes all over the country. In 1926, when you decided to adopt this name to allow your children to call themselves Indians, our children were being taken from our homes and being denied the right to be who they truly were, as members of the individual tribes of this state. So I just have a couple of things that I wanted to mention. I also wanted to alert people that may not know, just to remind you, that it's actually a classy crime in the state of Maine to falsely claim affiliation with a tribe. So if you're interested in looking that up, Section 117A MRSA subsection 909 states that a person is guilty of fraudulent claim of affiliation with a federal recognized tribe if the person knowingly falsely claims to be affiliated with that tribe. So you may want to avoid that behavior. The lack of movement on this issue by the Skowhegan School District suggests that the school district will not be persuaded to change the mascot for humane or ethical reasons. Therefore, I'd like to present you with an economic consideration. Recently, me and one of my colleagues had the honor of representing a Native American in a case where anti-discrimination laws were being argued. In that case, the mascot issue was cited by the judge as one of the reasons that discrimination was found in that public organization. So by keeping this mascot, you are subjecting yourselves to litigation based on anti-discrimination that could cost.
Thank you. Dr. Susan Cochran, followed by John Baer Mitchell.
Hi everybody, I'm Susan Cochran. I've lived in Skowhegan for about 36 years and I've served on the school board for about 16 years. And I appreciate all of your work and all of your listening. The Wabanaki have lived in this state, on this land for 12,000 years, thriving and living harmoniously with this land. They named this place where we live, and we all, including the Wabanaki, love that name. There are some differing definitions of that name. Some is a watching place, some is the place to fish, but either way, we love that name. However, they have then gone through, in the last 300 years, significant loss of life, land, and culture at the hands of our ancestors. This trauma has been passed down for generations, and the current people and their children, these are the people who live, they're true Wabanakis, who live in this state. They and their children feel hurt and belittled by the use of their name as a mascot. We never asked to use their name back in the 1920s or the 1950s, whenever we took this on. If we truly want to honor the true Wabanakis, then we need to listen to them and honor their request to change the mascot.
Up next is John Bear Mitchell, followed by John Burgess.
My name is John Bear Mitchell from the Mascot Nation. To continue the legal argument, we've heard that the school board is concerned with changing the mascot due to costs that would be associated with the change. It's come up in conversation. Given the position that the Human Rights Commission, the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights, the APA, and now the Superior Court of Maine has taken, I would like to think that it would be far more concerning for Skowhegan to maintain a mascot that daily subjects them to anti-discrimination litigation. It is important to note that should such litigation arise, the entire school board would be liable in that case. Under the law, once you are put on notice, meaning once you are made aware of a particular harm and you choose to ignore that harm, you become subject to punitive damages, on an individual basis. Thus, each school board member would be personally liable for if such a case were to be brought forward. In addition, you are subject to potential liability due to actions the school board members who have used public forum to allow or encourage and incite hate speech that has resulted in threats of bodily harm against a tribal individual, while continuing to allow the individual responsible for those actions to maintain her position as a member of the school board to participate in the decisions. By ignoring the multiple efforts that have been made to encourage you to do the right thing and retire the mascot willingly, you have demonstrated a reckless disregard for the rights of all those who are impacted by this discriminatory action. And by insisting that this meeting go forward tonight, despite the dangerously inclement weather, you have also shown a reckless disregard for the safety of all those who have to travel here to the earth. It's my hope that you will willingly choose to retire the Native American mascot in the school district. If you cannot be moved to do so for the moral and ethical reasons you have been urged to consider by countless members of the Maine tribes, your own community, then perhaps you'll be persuaded to do so because it poses a very real risk of anti-discrimination litigation that could result in significant financial loss for the entire school district.
Thank you. Up next is John Burgess. On deck is Marjorie Burgess.
Yes, thank you very much. My name is John Burgess, and I live in Gardner, Maine. I'm from away originally. I've only lived in Maine for 40 years. But I come from the South Shore of Massachusetts, Cape Cod, where we have a lot of indigenous folks. And but I wanted to, my point in even speaking tonight would be hope. Hope of joining together. I went to the University of Massachusetts, where we were the Fighting Red Men. We won the league championship. I was captain of the team. After I left school, where a classmate of mine was Bucky St. Marie, who I loved to listen to her sing under the statue of Metawampi, the chief of the tribe along the Connecticut River. But you want to know something, folks? All of a sudden, we've decided, all the folks are doing what you are doing, the graduates and the people of the Connecticut River Valley said that they felt it was not proper for us to be called the Fighting Red Men. And so they changed the name. Very simply, and honorably to the, I'm 80 years old, so just, yes, to the Minutemen. And there has been no problem since. The big thing that is there still is we join together.
20 seconds.
We join together. And I hope you all, for all of your sake, for your children's sake, and for the wonderful place that Skowhegan is, that you do that. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Next is Marjorie Burgess. On deck is Barry Dana.
Thank you for letting me speak. I'm Marge Burgess. Go, Marge. Thank you. I started teaching in 1971, and I taught for 16 years. I was then a counselor in the schools, and so that was 24 years. And I've spent the rest of the time being a counselor in the state of Maine. I founded the Center for Creativity and Counseling, which is located in Gardner. The reason that I felt compelled to speak tonight is that I truly believe the ancient Chinese proverb that crisis is both danger and opportunity. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about the danger because we only have to look around our world to see what happens when we don't use the opportunities that are ahead of us during a crisis. I've spent so many years helping people to heal from the pain of their experiences as they travel through life. And I would like to say that I believe that this is a great opportunity not only for the school board, but for Skowhegan and for the state. It is an opportunity to heal the pain of the past and to create a future that is full of opportunity. I could tell you a lot of stories, but I speak not only for, thank you, I speak not only for Native Americans who are here, because I have worked with some on the American Friends Service Committee, but I also speak for all people who are discriminated against, including our daughter, who we adopted in Brazil, and she was,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next is Barry Dana, and following will be Zachary Hyman.
Galawezi Barry Dana, and Sabama Panamopsuri. My name is Barry Dana from the Mascot Nation. I am the Sabama of the Mascot Nation. That's why I wear this regalia that signifies my position with my people. I heard a lot of testimony tonight, and it's very moving on both sides, actually. And I want to acknowledge both sides of the issue. The key thing I hear most often is the word honor. I accept that with gratitude that you want to honor Native people. Why not? I can't think of a better people to honor myself. In doing so, if you want to honor Native people, let me introduce to you a lady who could not come tonight due to the weather. She does drive herself at age 82. It's my mother. She's full-blooded Penobscot. But she wants to send you a message asking you to honor her. And my mother and I and my daughter and my family are direct descendants from the people who once stood here 12,000 years ago and who were standing here in 1723 where they were massacred by the British Army. We are direct descendants. We are descendants of those who escaped. My mother asked, this action to retire the Indian mascot is a dream that I have lived with my entire life. I hope Skowhegan will revisit and vote to change the name. This is honoring. Your idea of honoring, as I have witnessed it, is honoring something that was in the past, something of the noble savage. We're good fighters. Well, today we are fighting, and we're asking you to honor us as fighters to retire the Mascot. Thank you.
Zachary Hyden, followed by Aaron McCusick.
Good evening. My name is Zachary Hyden. I'm a resident of Portland, Maine. I'm the legal director of the American Civil Liberties Union of Maine, and I'm here to urge you to retire the Mascot. You all have a chance to make history tonight. I hope you appreciate that. Until very recently, there were 9 Indian mascots in Maine. 8 of them have been eliminated. This is the last one. And if you decide to eliminate this, to stop using this Indian mascot, Maine will be the first state in the country to entirely get rid of mascots, Native American mascots. I hope that you will embrace this historical opportunity. I hope you'll do it because these mascots are harmful. Studies have shown that consistently. They damage the self-esteem of students. Why would a school charged with educating students want to do anything to damage students? That's why the American Psychiatric Association has called for them to be eliminated. The U.S. Commission on Civil Rights has as well. And in addition, they're against the law. The Maine Human Rights Act prohibits discrimination in education. So does federal Title VI, the U.S. civil rights law governing education. You have a chance to do the right thing to protect students and to follow the law. As you all well know, I'm sure today would be David Bowie's birthday. David Bowie said, "Tomorrow belongs to those who can hear it coming." Students here, the people gathered, can hear it coming. Can hear tomorrow coming, a better tomorrow where we don't discriminate against Native peoples, and I hope you can hear it too.
Up next is Aaron McCusick, followed by Kayla Dixon.
Thank you for hearing me. Friends, I am a former student and graduate of this school district. I too felt a certain sense of pride in our identity as the Indians. I never once had the impression that the Indian mascot was coming from a place of racist or prejudiced sentiment. I never questioned the matter until much later when the Native American mascot controversy gained more traction, and in the media, and eventually, inevitably, came here to our town. My name is Aaron McCusick. I am someone who knows well the power of symbols. I am a local artist, a father. I too felt the measure of indignation and resentment at the prospect of our community being shamed and smeared by identity politics and political correctness to coerce our values and tradition. However, after our last meeting, I have had a change of heart. At our last meeting, Leon Dama held forth a feather and reminded us that this is sacred. This is not for winning basketball games. I ask, how many would it feel if another culture who had conquered and suppressed us, murdered our families, and violently annexed the land that had been ours, our ancestors' heritage for centuries? How would we feel if that culture had taken items and identities sacred to us and used them in the spirit of their games as a token symbol of pride? The Indian mascot is an icon for many who enjoy athletics.
20 seconds.
An icon is a symbol meant to embody an idea or principle that is considered honorable. However, the symbol of the Indian mascot and the feather are not our symbols. They belong to Native peoples. It's wrong and offensive to continue to appropriate their cultural symbols and heritage. If we think we are doing it out of respect, our mascot cannot be anything. Thank you.
Thank you. I would just remind those who come up to indicate your name and town of residence. Up next is Kayla Dickinson, followed by Amber Mary.
Hello, my name is Kayla Dickinson, and I go to Skowhegan Area High School. I'm going to ask you to keep an open mind. I'm sure most of you have already made your decisions. I know you're all really proud of the mascot, but as someone who goes to the school currently, I experience a lot. There are many issues in the school that are being overlooked by pride. Many people in the school display racist and exclusive behavior, and it could be because of the derogatory name of our mascot. Racism should have been solved years ago, but it's coming back stronger. This school is not a safe place for a lot of people. Bullying is an intense thing that my peers and I have to go through daily. We've asked for help and have gotten none. Instead of changing and developing the school for the better, you'd rather keep it the same. That's not going to work. Society is evolving, language is evolving. We are no longer, or should no longer, use slurs to describe people. There are people in my school who had to fight to be accepted by most of society, but are still badly bullied in school. Something needs to change. Our school needs to change. The kids in our school need a safe place, and right now you're not providing that. I believe that having a derogatory name for our mascot excuses kids who use derogatory language in our school. So then the bullying gets worse and adults refuse to take action. When does it stop? I think that the pride of the school should not be based on the mascot, but should be based on who we are as a school. So let's stop focusing on how much pride everyone has and start making the school a safe place for all.
Up next is Amber Mary, followed by Mulian Dana.
My name is Amber Mary. I'm a junior at Skowhegan Area High School. I'm part of the GSTA Civil Rights team, and I'm very involved in the athletics programs. And I say this because when talking about mascots, it's usually referring to an athlete or team. And it has been plastered all over our uniforms and equipment and merchandise such as sweatshirts, blankets, bleacher chairs, t-shirts, bumper stickers, and anything that this school can get their hands on. I want to be proud of my school community. When I see other schools like with a bulldog or eagle as their mascot, I'm jealous. They have so much school pride, but I can't be proud of Skowhegan because we represent something that I cannot stand for. By keeping our current mascot, we are blatantly disrespecting the Native Americans who are asking to change it. We do not get to choose what is offensive and what is not. Some of you may be thinking, who am I to talk about this issue? And maybe you're right. I am not Native American, and that is who we should be listening to. They are the subject of this debate, of this conversation. They are being ignored until they stop talking because we as a school district have taken over this conversation and shut out the most important voices, and this needs to stop. We say that we are honoring the Native Americans with this mascot, but they are here to tell us that they do not feel honored or respected. Please listen to what they have to say. If we truly want to honor the Native people, we will honor their request to retire the mascot. Thank you.
Mulian Dana, and following Mulian will be Bill Houston.
Can you all hear me? I don't take it off. Alright. Ndulubizi, Molly and Dana, Nujayo, Manawaskawi. My name is Molly and Dana. I'm from the Mascot Nation. In In 2015, this board silenced me in this room, and congratulations for learning from your mistake. I thank you for letting me be here. I want to talk about a few things tonight. First of all, I feel the question is very misleading. You need to just, excuse your expression, man up and call it a mascot. It's not a nickname, it's a mascot. You're taking the cultural identity of somebody and you're calling it your team name. Also, I'm not sure why the seal is included in the member. I think it is a deflection from what we're talking about. We are not talking about the statue, the town seal, or the town name. We are asking you, as a collective of Wabanaki Tribes of Maine, to remove your Indian mascot, period. Also, I noticed that some board members who are also members of Skowhegan Indian Pride have been working with a group called the Native American Guardians Association. This group is not affiliated with Indigenous people. They do not speak for Indigenous people. They were formed from the deep, deep pockets of the Washington football team that is trying to hold on to their racial slur as their mascot. The members have been found to be non-Indigenous. They've been found to be Japanese, African American, but trying to pretend to be Indigenous, which is essentially what the mascot practice is. I want to talk about the Skowhegan Indian Pride members that talk about honoring us, and that they have never used this in a bad way. I want to say to you, scalp towel. I want to say to you, hunt the Indian. I've been called worthless. I've been called a piece of trash. Thank you. I've been called things that would break the profanity rules for this forum. My children have been talked about, my family's been talked about. Where's the honor in that? Get back to me. Also, it feels so good to not be alone. I've singled out a lot on this, and as you can see, I'm far from alone.
Bill Houston. On deck is Ira Lawson.
Bill Houston, Kingfield. I've taught outdoor leadership at SCTC for the past 25 years. Apologize ahead of time if my tone reflects the anger that I feel. There are few things bothering me more than injustice, especially at the expense of children, especially from a group that is charged to educate and protect them. You are hurting children. The people you say you continue to honor have told you so and told you so repeatedly. You are hurting their children and yours. They have provided you professional psychological evidence to back up their own experiences. How do you continue to justify the pain you are causing in violation of your own anti-discrimination policy? Is it your heritage? I'm sorry, but as far as Native Americans are concerned, your heritage is one of genocide and ethnic cleansing. They're not talking about 4 years of high school. Your history and their history is totally different. They are talking about a long history of oppression, one that you continue today. Leadership requires empathy. Do you justify the hurt that it's not a mascot anymore, just a name? Last year, one of my students showed up to class in his version of full Indian regalia. Feathered headdress, totem, and an orange tutu. I can't tell you how disgusted I was. Not at him, but at you for empowering and emboldening him. The high school gym has the home of the Indians in large orange letters. How do you think that feels to a people who were put on reservations, who had their land taken? Do you justify the hurt with pride? My mascot student was extremely proud. Your pride is blinding you from the truth. Leadership requires compassion. It's time to show some.
Next up is Ira Luffing, followed by Lisa Savage.
Hi, my name is Ira Luffing, and I've lived here for 27 years. I teach at the high school, but I am not here as a representative of that institution. Now, I know a lot of people who are justifiably proud of their sports teams and their high school mascot. That was okay, but things change. This is from the mission statement from the high school, and this is on the website. We respect the individual talents and differences that strengthen our local and global community. And from the social and civic expectations, demonstrate ethical and responsible behavior, display respect and tolerance towards all, contribute positively to the local and global community, and develop civic responsibility. A sports mascot is something that the whole community can feel proud about as we root on our student athletes. It used to serve that function, but it doesn't do it nowadays. It may be time for a change. Thank you.
Next up is Lisa Savage, followed by Ed Arnold.
I'm Lisa Savage. I reside in Solon. I've been a property taxpayer in Skowhegan for decades. My children went to school here. My father went to school here. I'm wearing this sweater. I'm kind of sentimental too. I do think that the Skowhegan area sports team name is an educational issue because seeing Native culture used in a disrespectful way affects Native and non-Native students alike. Self-image and confidence have been shown to be negatively affected by stereotypes like Indian, and learning outcomes are negatively affected when students feel their identity is under attack. There are many studies published in academic journals that illustrate these points. It really doesn't matter what the intention was when creating the Indian mascot and team nickname. The effects of discrimination are negative, and intention does not change those effects. Some of the members of the Skowhegan Indian Pride exhibit discrimination in their online posts. I'm sure that not all Skowhegan Indian Pride members agree with them, and some are probably embarrassed by the ugly images and words used. This is a sampling of comments screen captured from the Skowhegan Indian Pride page referring to Molly and Dana, the female ambassador for the Penobscot. She should be passed around the teepee, then she will know her place. Maybe we can trade her body for beaver fat. Maybe we can oil her up and watch her wrestle. She says she dances. I have some dollars saved. I'd love to see her dance. She better not come here. We will be ready. And about the mascot. The mascot is a sign of respect. Whether they take it as such is not up to them. When a hunter gets their deer head mounted, it's not out of disrespect for it. It's because they are proud of it. Same with Indians' logo. And finally, I don't get it. Those who win the war get to write the history. That's why they don't teach the history of Indians in school. We conquered them and can use them however we like. I'm going to repeat that one. We conquered them and can use them however we like. To represent a sports team is one of the highest honors one can have bestowed upon them. They should be proud. The reason I believe the retirement of the Indian team name is inevitable is this.
Thank you. Next up is Ed Arnold. On deck is Jen Olson.
Hey everyone, my name is Ed Arnold. I am not Native American. I'm not even a native Mainer. I live in Pittsfield, but I grew up pretty close to New York City, so I'm sure you're all really eager to know my opinion on the subject. and maybe that's one thing you can all agree on, that I'm an outsider, and I get that. But my one connection is that I've spent many years working in the education of young people. And remember, that's what our backdrop is here. We're talking about an educational setting. Athletic education, where these young men and women are supposed to be learning leadership, teamwork, and courage. I mean, some of these kids could potentially be going to serve in our military at the end of this year or next. So what are we teaching them? There's a dangerous misconception that this is about people being offended or about it's being PC. It's not. I'm willing to guess that being offended is the least worried of the people here whose ancestors were murdered, stripped of their lands and their rights. These people and their ancestors are not mascots. You say you want to honor them, you say you want to give your kids something to be proud of. Change the name of your team to something that inspires courage and compassion in your students. Have one of your talented students design you the best symbol that you've ever seen, because they will if you just give them the chance. Be yourselves, courage. Be yourselves, true warriors. And make sure that every young woman and young man who puts on that uniform knows the Wabanaki meaning of warrior, because it's very different than what we're teaching them right now.
On deck is Diane Oltraszewski.
I'm Jennifer Olson, I'm a resident of Skowhegan. Until now, I chose to stay out of the Indian question in my community for a host of reasons explicitly relating to my own white privilege. But I called it something else, or many something else's. I called it, it's not my issue. I didn't grow up here. It's not my issue. My kids didn't go to school here. It's not my issue. I am not an Indigenous person. Oh, I hate to do public speaking, plus it's raining. I don't want to make people feel bad. Other things are a priority. I get to choose the very terms and times in which I engage in discussions that make me feel discomfort. I have the very dearest of friends whom I call when it gets real around here, and it's getting real in my life, who share their Christmas table with me, who feel another way about this issue. And this is a love letter to them. I changed my mind about speaking up and using my voice. I'm here saying this now because the name Indian is a values-driven question, and that belongs to the whole community. And I want to express my values in public so that the young people in my community will know how I feel, and I want to be a good ancestor. I learned that there is a phrase, intent versus impact. What I meant to say and how it landed on someone else. I'm going to run out of time. So, if I bake cookies for someone and they're delicious cookies, and they say, it's not a gift, it's not a gift. They get to say whether that is honoring them or not, whether they choose to receive it or not. I live in a house on the Kennebec River, on land that once belonged to, I think, the Norwich tribe of the Wabanaki Federation, and I'm staying there. Please ask a bigger question.
Thank you.
I want this to change.
Up next is Diane Oltraszewski, followed by Naomi Brodigan.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me share my thoughts tonight. My name is Diane Oltraszewski from Belfast. We live our lives in Wabanaki territory, and we need to slow down and think about what that means. We owe each other respect, and we only disfigure ourselves by withholding it. Honor and pride are better served by teaching Indigenous history in our social studies classes to make sure our students grow up knowing America's truth rather than her myth. When I saw the Langley sculpture titled Skowhegan Indian with its dedication to the Maine Indians, the first people to use these lands in peaceful ways, I liked it. It makes a truthful statement of respect. But taking Indian as a team mascot is clearly offensive to many Wabanaki citizens. Such a mascot belittles their rich identity and their complex reality at this moment in history. If I were a Wabanaki child, I would know my culture intimately as a source of strength and pride. To find it misrepresented by people who don't understand my heritage, well, how would that make me feel? As a non-native, I have to accept that I can never fully understand why this is so objectionable, because I have not experienced their intervening history. Native or non-native children can't possibly feel comfortable and free to enjoy themselves in this environment, let alone compete with confidence. The mascot plants something dishonest in our children's minds, because in 2019, we know that the real savagery came from colonial bounty hunters, from the ethnic cleansing and relentless land seizure through which our country was established. And plenty of non-native Skowhegan students and alums get this. So they all deserve a mascot they can be unconditionally proud of. Let's make a world that works for all of us.
Up next is Naomi Brodigan. On deck is Ridley Fuller.
My name is Naomi Brodigan from Monroe. I did not grow up in Skowhegan. Last time I was in this building, a board member expressed concern that folks from outside of Skowhegan were allowed a platform to speak on this issue. But of course, these humanizing mascots have impact far beyond Skowhegan. So I thank you for this open forum. I'm here tonight in support of Mascot Nation Travel Ambassador Molly Dana's request for SAD 54's use of Indians as a mascot to be removed. The small New England town I grew up in has a mural in the post office depicting a native person wearing a headdress about to torch a colonial house. Underneath the image reads cruel adversity. These narratives and stereotypes we absorb as children are powerful. They dictate the way we understand our place in the world. They teach descendants of white settlers like myself that our perspective is superior and that we are superior. I reflect on this as I listen to white people argue that an appropriate way to honor the native people who were killed on this land is to ignore and disrespect the clearly articulated requests of their descendants. It has been many years since I was a child looking at the post office walls, and thankfully I have since been exposed to many perspectives that were terribly underrepresented in my hometown. Among the many things these perspectives have taught me is that we must listen most deeply to those who we have been taught are inferior. We need to listen to Indigenous people when they say that changing the mascot would be an appropriate way to honor the heritage of this place. We need to listen to Ambassador Dana when she says these Indian mascots perpetuate harmful stereotypes about our people. And listen to her when she says that 1 in 3 Indigenous women will go missing or fall victim to rape or murder in their lifetime. When she says that when you see us as less than human, we become disposable and we become objects, and that is not okay.
Up next is Ridgely Fuller and Carly McCabe.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Ridgely Fuller, and I'm from Belfast in Guyana, Maine. I'm a retired school social worker and have spent most of my career working in schools, both elementary and secondary. I therefore share your deep sense of responsibility for the critical role our teaching plays in shaping who our youth become as adults and citizens in our wider community. We shape the character both through the content of what is taught, and heaven knows the history you and I were taught was certainly whitewashed, pun intended. But also what values we model in our day-to-day contact with our students. Bullying, the use of power to oppress others, are certainly behavior I thought we intentionally and daily condemn in our schools throughout the country. I suggest that simplistically, our history with our Native brothers and sisters consists of unrelenting bullying to its most horrific genocidal degree. And so by removing the Indian symbol as a mascot of Skowhegan schools, you have an opportunity not only to interrupt this pattern, but also to model the inclusive and generous behavior we want our children to embrace. To provide both a historical and a current context of what I'm trying to say, I would like to share relevant excerpts from a poem written by Barbara Marie of Belfast. She writes, "What if we went back as witness and stood on the cliff of centuries, counting our missteps, watching guns raised, laws made, lies spread, to steal by any means necessary whatever we stumble on? What if we noticed the hint of scalping and the drops of genocide under our skin? What part of ourselves did we lose for the right to atrocity, occupation, annexation, Indian boarding schools, broken treaties, and forced adoption? What if right now we stop standing still in ignorance while laws are reinterpreted? What if we stand on the cliff of centuries, welcome the necessary fall that grace provides, and what if we wade into the future with respect and permission, baptized in the destiny of truth? You have an important opportunity. May you use it wisely. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Carly McCabe. On deck is Sarah Colburn.
I'd first like to start off by saying hello. For those of you that do not know me, my name is Carly McCabe. I am a 7th grader at Skowhegan Area Middle School. I run for the cross-country team, I'm a student council president, and I am proud to call myself an activist. Doing these things in representation of the so-called Skowhegan Indians is embarrassing. It makes me feel frustrated that I go to a school with a mascot that is an ethnic group that has repeatedly told us they do not want to be our mascot. And even more frustrated that the school board representing the schools of MSAD 54 has done nothing about it. People can say whatever they want about the Indian being our heritage, but the truth is Europeans killed the Native Americans in our area and put the rest on reservations. My teachers at Bloomfield Elementary taught me this. This should not be a proud part of our heritage. Myself and many other people are calling for a totally new mascot, something that I would be willing to organize within my own school. So I would like to conclude by saying that this culturally insensitive mascot does not represent the smart, strong, and compassionate kids that go to MSAD 54 schools. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sarah Colburn, and I live in Skowhegan. I teach 2nd grade at Bloomfield Elementary School right across the street. And I wanted to speak to the mascot issue from the perspective of an educator in the district. Our 3 expectations of students at Bloomfield Elementary School are: be safe, be respectful and kind, be responsible. I would like to pose to the board a question. Is the stance to keep the Indians mascot respectful and kind? Is the stance to keep the Indians mascot responsible? I would argue that it is neither respectful nor kind, and it is not a stance which is responsible to the students, the young minds you serve on this board. I want to remind you who you work for. You work for our children. I work for our children. Your job as a school board is to make sure that our children receive the best education possible. Every decision you make as a board sends a message to our children about what is important, what is acceptable. Lastly, I think it's important for our community and Native communities to know that holding on to the mascot despite our Native communities asking that we change does not represent the work that I do as an educator in this district and the work that every other educator is doing every day in this district to teach our children about civil rights for all individuals and at a primary level about kindness, respect, and responsibility. Please change the mascot and send a message to our children about the kindness that bounds us all.
Next is Peter Hockmeyer. On deck is Natalie Cook.
My name is Peter Hockmeyer, and I'm a social studies teacher here in the district. I live in Wayne, Maine. Thank you for the opportunity to share my thoughts, given that I'm not Native American and I'm not a graduate of this district or a resident of this town. I am, however, a student of American history, so I have been educated, to my great dismay, of the policies of institutional racism directed at particular groups of people and enacted by the United States government, my own government, over the course of its history. I don't feel responsible for decisions made and policies pursued by my government prior to my birth. But as a U.S. citizen, I do feel a sense of ownership in regard to its past actions. My ownership comes as a personal responsibility to repudiate all past and present racist policies of my government. I do not, and I will not think that the individuals seeking to preserve the Indian name, many of them my students who I care deeply about, are racist. One of the life lessons that I try to teach my students is that change is a function of life. Those that can embrace change tend to be happier and more successful people. Those that resent and resist change and invest their energies in asking why and defending their right not to change tend to experience frustration and a lack of success because they either cannot or are unwilling to adapt to the change that is coming. I see this as an opportunity for Skowhegan to embrace the change that is coming. Thank you.
Up next is Natalie Cook. On deck is Julie and Cook.
My name is Natalie Cook. I'm 11 years old and I live in Cornwall. Skowhegan Area High School should not represent the Native people as the mascot of the school because the Native people are requesting it. That way, Maine can lead the country in being the first Native American mascot-free state. And last but not least, the mascot is just a mockery to the Native people. The indigenous people believe that us using the cartoonish Indian as a mascot is a mockery of their people. The Skowhegan Chamber of Commerce made the same mistake when they held their Hunt for the Indian promotion last year. Another example of Skowhegan being intensive is when a high school student wears a headdress to a pep rally. Consider a school that allowed blackface to be the mascot. It is just as offensive. This controversy is not known only to Skowhegan. Towns all over the nation are showing their respect to our Native people by changing their racist mascots and imagery. Skowhegan is the last holdout in Maine. If we address this now, we will become the first state in the nation to completely achieve this goal. We could be the one who finally puts Maine on the map. Together we can set an example for the country. These people are asking politely and we should respect that. The Native Americans have been asking too long for this change. More than 2 years ago, people from the tribes of Penobscot, Passamaquoddy, Maliseet, and Micmac came to the Skowhegan officials to say that how we call ourselves the Indians is offensive to them. For over 2 years, they have been fighting to change the mascot when they have been respectfully trying to change our minds. I think we owe them this. Being respectful of the tribal nations of Maine isn't the politically correct things to do. It's the right thing to do.
Up next, Ms. Cook, and on deck, Morgan McLeod.
Hello, my name is Annie Cook, and I'm a senior at Skowhegan Area High School. I am a 3-sport varsity athlete, in which soccer I was a junior and senior captain. In basketball, I am one of 5 senior captains. I wasn't sure until tonight that I was going to speak for sure, but I just wanted to stand up and show that I am in support of changing the mascot name. I wanted to tell you a quick story also. In all my 4 years of playing sports, not once have I felt proud to be called out on the field or court as an Indian. In fact, I have felt the complete opposite. Every time I am named an Indian, I immediately get an uncomfortable feeling in my stomach that I can't really explain, except for one way. As a child, my mother has always told me to listen to my gut feeling. If I have a gut feeling that something is not right, I should listen to it. One of the first practices I attended as a freshman on the varsity soccer team, we had as a team gotten shirts that said Lady Indian Soccer on it. And we were all expected to wear them the next day to school. Immediately I had called my mother. Mind you, at this point, I was not educated much in this matter, and said that I was uncomfortable with having to wear the shirt because I knew it was hurtful to the Native people. Being a freshman, I was nervous to make a stand so early on a team that many of my teammates were older and much better at sports. But my mother, as she had always said before, I should respect how my gut feels. And I am glad I did. Since then, most every shirt or other merchandise that we had ordered has respectfully cut out the Indian labels. I do not feel pride on the court or field knowing that I am labeled an Indian. But I ask you to please respect the wishes of those who are telling you they are being heard. Be kind, be compassionate, be respectful and loving, and try to cut out as much drama and hatefulness as possible. Thank you.
Up next is Morgan McLeod, and following Morgan will be Reverend Carrie Johnson.
Good evening. My name is Morgan Knox-McLeod. I live in Norridgewock, and I'm a graduate of the '93 class of Martin Stevens. Good evening to the school board and to our Native leaders and those here tonight. I thank you for your time and your willingness to hear and to be heard. It occurred to me while preparing for this evening that the board members, the tribal leaders, the Native youth and the students, both past and present, that sit here tonight, the concerns or the outrage, we all share one thing in common: a belief that what we are fighting for is right. Each one in this room believes that they are fighting to honor something. We are fighting because of fierce loyalties or over opinions that hurt or threaten our way of life. Our indigenous people, to them, this mascot, the Skowhegan Indian, is a daily reminder of the past they had no say in. The costumes we wear, the chants we chant, the fake feathers in our hair, a constant reminder of all those lost and stolen and how desperately they still have to fight. This is not a new issue. Dr. Martin Luther King spoke of this in 1963 in his book, Why We Can't Wait, and I quote, "Our nation was born in genocide when it embraced the doctrine of the original American, the Indian, was an inferior race. Even before there were large numbers of Negroes on our shores, the scar of radical hatred had already disfigured colonial society. From the 16th century forward, blood flowed to the battles of racial supremacy. We are perhaps the only nation which tried as a matter of national policy to wipe its indigenous population. Moreover, we alleviated that tragic experience into a noble crusade. Indeed, even today, we have not permitted ourselves to reject or to feel remorse for our shameful episode. Our literature, our films, our drama, our folklore, all exalted. And now I ask you, our mascot doesn't? Thank you.
Up next, Reverend Carrie Johnson, and on deck is Amanda Exley.
My name is Reverend Carrie Johnson. I am the co-founder of the Decolonizing Faith Project, and this is my Buddhist colleague, Marty Sewell. We are two of 100 people and religious institutions that have signed this letter that you received today. We wish to add our voices to those of the Wabanaki peoples who have requested that you stop using the Indian name and logo for your school sports teams. At the core of many faith traditions is the simple guide for ethical decision-making. Love your neighbor as yourself. If our neighbors let us know that our actions are causing them pain or distress, we have a duty to listen, to understand, to change our behavior for the greater good of our relationship to our neighbors. We have heard you express that your original intention was to honor the Native history that took place in the Skowhegan area, and that the symbol was meant to denote courage and strength. But Wabanaki people have clearly stated that these symbols do not honor them. They have expressed to you the negative impacts of such names and mascots on their people. As the National Congress of American Indian States, rather than honoring Native peoples, these characters and stereotypes are harmful, perpetuate negative stereotypes of Americans' first people, and contribute to the disregard of personhood. Many faith communities have called for repentance of the Church's role in the dehumanization and the colonization of our Native American brothers and sisters. In light of this and the fact that we strongly believe the continued use of the Native names as nicknames is demeaning and racist, we support efforts throughout our society to replace such names, mascots, and symbols. If the actual impact of our choices does not match our original intention, then the good choice would be to make a change that honors the impact of our neighbors. Thank you.
Up next is Amanda Exley. On deck is Brandon Baldwin.
Hi, Amanda Exley. I used to come here and compete against the Skowhegan Indians as a high schooler in doing activities. I'm from Newburgh now. Change is scary. There's a sense of security in what's familiar, obviously. And when you're facing a big change, there's mystery. There's a very real fear and often anger at the notion of change. When schools began to integrate, there was massive pushback. Black and white students learning and growing together. That change came with a lot of struggle, and many people fought against that change, but it was the right thing to do. More recently, when Common Core education was introduced, a lot of anger and resistance to that as well. Some people are still angry. But we're coming up on 10 years later. Nearly every state in the US has adopted and implemented Common Core, including Maine. And in another 10 years, everyone's going to look back and be like, why did we fight so hard against that? Asking educational institutions to change outdated, offensive mascots you'd think wouldn't come with such a struggle. Skowhegan is the only school left in Maine that still has an offensive mascot. All the others have changed. This is a place of education, of learning and growing, but how can we lead students to grow and learn while still resisting that process ourselves? As far as the mascot goes, I want you to legit ask yourself this question, or the following questions. Would it be okay if we were the Skowhegan Jews? No, it would not be okay. Would it be okay if you called yourself the Skowhegan Asians? Again, absolutely not. That's beyond wrong. And why? Because those are real people, and that would be highly offensive. Maine has Indians. They're standing here today asking you to please change the name. You want to keep the Indian name to honor the Indians of the past, but they're gone. How do we honor the Indians of the present? Learn more about their history and culture, and respect their wishes.
Brandon Baldwin. On deck is Ernest Hilton.
Brandon Baldwin, Manchester, Maine, class of '94. Because I know what it means to be from Skowhegan. It's lining up in Giffords when it's too cold for ice cream, demolition derbies and too many french fries at the fair, and the smell of grilled onions at Friday night football games. It's remembering the names of all your kindergarten classmates and the flood of 87 every time you drive over the bridges. Because I'm 42 years old, but I'll always see myself as a kid from Skowhegan. Who I am today is a combination of memories, experiences, relationships, and that sense of community that's so strong here. Because to assert that this community's identity is tied to a mascot is to cheapen what it truly means to be from here. It's so much more. Because if you change that mascot, you still have all those other things. And maybe you rediscover and better appreciate what it truly means to be from this community. Because I love this community so much, and I know that you do too. But love isn't always easy. And anyone who's ever been in love knows that one of the toughest things you can ever do is admit that you were wrong. It's difficult, but it's sometimes necessary to move forward. Because the town slogan, "A place to watch," could mean that Skowhegan clings to its past and watches the world move by, or that it's a place worth watching as it boldly blazes into the future. Because you can announce to the world that Skowhegan, Maine is a welcoming and respectful community. Because you can show your kids that actions speak so much louder than words. Because here in Skowhegan, we claim the legacy of Margaret Chase Smith as our own, and someday we are all asked to make our own declaration of conscience. Please, do what you know is right.
Up next is Hilton. On deck, Representative Ken Ackley.
Good evening. I'm Ernie Hilton from Stocks. About 10 miles up the river, a massacre took place in 1724. People don't realize it, but the Kennebec River at that time was the boundary between English North America on the west shore and French North America on the east shore. My seventh good generation forebear actually took up the settlers' lot, which had previously been the Abenaki, or the native village on the west shore. As I think the testimony tonight has demonstrated, this is as much a problem for non-natives as it is for natives. Non-natives need to somehow get beyond their preconceptions about what natives are, what they need, and what they want. Molly and Dana, along with three others, there are four federally recognized tribes in this state: Penobscots, Passamaquoddies, Maliseets, and Mi'kmaqs. They are federally recognized and they are sovereign. They have all gone through a deliberative process to arrive at a determination that they want this school board, as their governmental entities, coming to you as a government entity, not just as a collection of individuals, but as a government body, to make a determination, to join them in a determination that this symbology, whether it's a mascot or something else, is still a symbology, needs to be changed. There has certainly been a number of people tonight and at other times who have some degree of native ancestry. They've expressed their opinions. They have every right to their opinions, but they do not represent the determination of the tribes in this state. You need to change this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Up next is Representative Ken Ackley. On deck is Brooke Curtis.
Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Kent Ackley. I'm the representative from Monmouth. There are lots of times I speak specifically for my constituents, and that's not tonight. The people who elected me also to at times speak for all of the interests of the state of Maine. And that's what my words are about. It seems to me that this entire conversation is about the word respect. And if you actually look at that word, respect, in Latin its origin is two words: re, meaning twice, and spect, meaning look. It literally means, hey, take a second look. That's what it means. That's where that word respect comes from. In fact, there's a banner just over my shoulder here in the hallway that describes some important ideas for every student to see when they come into this school. It says, respect yourself, respect others, respect your school. It's important to the educational process indeed. And this school, being a learning institution, you know, I'm sure every person in this building has learned a very important rule called the Golden Rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto yourself. You know, early on, I also learned an additional rule that's called the Platinum Rule. This one's one taught by my dad. The Platinum Rule goes farther. Dad used to cook on nights when I come home with good grades, and he'd serve his favorite meal. Well, there was one time when I brought home a great report card, and I said, Dad, I finally got up the gumption. I said, Dad, I really don't like liver and onions. Maybe we could have burgers. The Platinum Rule says, do unto others as they would like done unto themselves. And that is the type of respect that I think our Native American friends are asking for tonight.
Thank you. Up next is Brooke Curtis. On deck is Sherry Brown.
Hello, my name is Brooke Curtis and I am from Skowhegan. I graduated from Skowhegan Area High School as salutatorian in 2016. I was a cheerleader for many years and used to take pride in being a Skowhegan Indian. However, after I graduated and began to attend the University of Maine, I learned how little I knew about Native American histories and cultures. Despite having been salutatorian, I was ignorant. I learned about the systematic oppression of Native American peoples by the U.S. government and the many attempts to forcefully assimilate them into white society. I learned that the genocide of Native Americans did not end hundreds of years ago, but that it evolved into what is known as cultural genocide. I realized that we are a part of the ongoing cultural genocide of Native Americans in this country, as when we project the false idea of who Native Americans are through the stereotypical depiction of the Indian mascot, we are erasing the truths of the Native peoples all across the nation. When we depict their spirituality and religion as mythology, as the course I took during my senior year at Skowhegan did, and use their sacred symbols to show off our school spirit, we are committing genocide against Native people's identities and their cultures. Why must our school pride come at the cost of the pride and identities of millions of people? The fact of the matter is, it does not have to. Changing our school mascot's name will not erase the pride that our town has in its past or the accomplishments of our sports teams. Many of Skowhegan's current students and graduates still hold on to the idea that the Indian name honors Native Americans and that our town would lose its identity if we were to change the name of the mascot. I propose to all of you here tonight that if the school's curriculum taught the whole truth of Native American history, that this way of thinking would change. I believe that we can be better and that we can still have pride in our town without diminishing the pride of others. Change our district curriculum to teach the truth and not a glamorized version of Native American history. Change our mascot's name, and in doing so, restore what our pride should be focused on. Not a name, but the qualities that make us upstanding American citizens. Thank you.
Up next is Sherry Brown. On deck is Annabelle Barassa.
So my name is Sherry Brown, and I'm from Benton. I'm a Lawrence High School grad, so don't hold that against me. But I'm here as a Mainer and as a high school teacher, which I've been for over 15 years. But I currently am also studying trauma in schools at the University of Maine, and that's what brings me here today. Childhood trauma has horrific effects, and adverse childhood experiences, including abuse, oppression, poverty, neglect, can lead to substance abuse disorder, suicide attempts, and a variety of health issues like diabetes and cancer. And those who experience high levels of trauma are also more likely to die earlier, sometimes 20 years earlier, depending on the trauma and abuse. I think we've heard this is abusing our Indigenous kids. We are actually abusing them. And we know what trauma does. We know what intergenerational trauma does. We know that it passes from generation to generation. And if you know that, you have to change that. And you have the power to do that. We're educators. A lot of us are educators in this room, and we're coming to you, begging you to change the name. I guess that's, oh, and I have the studies, you can read them.
I speak to you today not only as an ally of Native Americans nationwide, in our state, and in our town who have expressed their hurt at what our school chose, long before its current students, to represent it. I speak to you as an involved citizen in your community, as someone who participates in the plays you enjoy, and someone who serves the community as a member of the National Honor Society. I am speaking today to ask you to reconsider. This mascot has already been condemned by the tribes of Maine, by many in our community, and many of our current students. I can say this confidently because they stand with me today. The mascot is not, and never has been, an honorary symbol or one of pride. I can say this because I have listened to the vast majority of those who it is supposed to represent, and that majority has asked for a change. I stand today because I ask you to reconsider. If pride is such a strong point in our community, if you want it to become a unifying factor, why not listen to your current students? We come to you tonight because we want to see a change. We hold no pride for the mascot. We do not feel school unity. We want to set an example of respect and honor for Native Americans, as many of you here tonight say you aim to do with the mascot we have right now. We want to see a change because we have listened and we understand that it is our responsibility. We understand a change represents a respect we want to show. And as allies, as students, as members of our community, we come to you hoping you will hear our voices and understand. And tonight we ask you to reconsider. If we truly want to honor Native people, we will honor their request to retire the mascot.
Following Kevin is Roger Johnstone. Kevin James and then Roger Johnstone.
should have sat closer. My name is Kevin James. I live in Smithfield. This Dana, ambassador of the Penobscots, and here representing all the tribes of Maine, has come before this body with a message that native mascots are offensive, racist, and harmful, and has requested that the Skowhegan Indian mascot be retired. She has done so in a manner most respectful, using language more diplomatic than I can ever manage. The ACLU of Maine, the governor, not the last one, the new one, Skowhegan's fire chief, the Federated Church, Sports Boosters Brothers, and others have made the same request. In response, we've heard testimony from alumni about how their memories of being a Skowhegan Indian make them feel all warm and fuzzy, as if that was a valid argument for retaining the mascot. It's not offensive, it is said. Let me share with you the definition of offensive. Offensive, adjective, causing someone to feel deeply hurt, upset, or angry. That's it. If it offends, it's offensive. We are honoring them, it's said. Sorry, I missed the boat on that one too. Honor, verb, to hold in highest esteem and treat with utmost respect. We all see that's not happening. It's our heritage, you say. The fact that something has gone on for a long time does not make it right. This country's heritage includes attempted genocide of Native Americans, slavery, Jim Crow laws, lynchings, internment of Japanese Americans, racist application of criminal law, and the practice of kidnapping Native children for placement in cultural immersion schools. Any of that make you feel proud? It's harmless, you say. From school playgrounds to workplaces, lunch counters, general stores, and public houses all over Maine, I heard several jokes and angry diatribes aimed at everybody, natives, Jews, Franco-Americans, both the rich and poor. In short, the same clannishness, self-righteousness, bigotry, and...
Thank you. Up next is Roger Johnstone. On deck is Cecil Gray.
I am Roger Johnstone from Skowhegan. I come tonight to ask you to retire the name. I thank you for listening to me and hearing my perspective. My perspective is I'm a parent. I've lived here for 25 years. I've had two daughters go through the system, K through 12. They got wonderful educations. Thank you. Thank you to your predecessors and the work that you do. My daughter played field hockey. She's a Skowhegan Indian. I played a bunch of sports. I was an Old Town Indian. It's a different thing, kind of, but not really. So I understand where the people who want to keep the name are coming from. You know, it's good times, it's memories. Old Town gave it up. You know, times change. I'm not sure what the town went through to do that. I was living here. I wasn't paying that much. I can't say I was offended. Oh no, I'm not Indian anymore because I never was an Indian. And it might have been clearer to me in Old Town because there are actual Indians on the teams with me. Chief Dana. You know, I'm not going to tell you how the tribes feel about it, how the actual Indians feel about it. They've been pretty clear. My perspective is, you know, I've known Chief Dana. I'm 60 years old. I've known him for almost 50 years. He's a friend. I know his mother. And by continuing with this name, you insult my friend. And as elected officials, you do it in my name. And I wish you would stop, and I ask you to stop.
Up next is Cecil Gray. On deck is Leah Savage.
Hi, Cecil Gray from Skowhegan, taxpayer. I have two boys in the school system, one who will enter high school next year, so this is very important to me. It would be anyway. I'm going to start off and read the Skowhegan vision statement for the high school. I protest them. I'm going to read the whole thing. The Skowhegan Area High School community values rigorous and relevant academic standards, fosters personal integrity and growth, and promotes self-reliance and social responsibility. We respect and honor the individual talents and differences that strengthen our local and global community. Students will graduate with the foundation necessary to further their learning and become productive citizens. We are not following this vision. We are lacking terribly in relevant academics in Indigenous history and present-day reconnaissance. By objectifying the race of people, we are failing to teach personal integrity and growth. By objectifying the race of people, we are failing in social responsibility. We are not recognizing differences in our global community. We are not providing a foundation to further our graduates' learning. Objectification of people is wrong. In a nutshell, by ignoring this honorable Indigenous request, we are essentially teaching that as white people, we can come up with a word to honor you. When you say that this word means something different to you, we say, well, we meant it to honor you. In our subconscious, we believe that our feelings are superior. Thusly, we have objectified an entire culture as being not worthy enough to be listened to. This does not ignore genuine intent. My simple plea tonight is for all of those on the board and in this room who favor this mascot to try and escape your own heads and simply listen to what you have been told. If honor is the true intent, then we'll honor them by doing so. Retire the mascot, move our heritage forward in a positive direction.
Up next is Leah Savage. On deck is Karen Luthi.
My name is Leah Savage. This is my younger sister, Skaya. I was a student athlete at Skowhegan Area High School. By the time I graduated this past year, I earned 2 state titles as the goalie for the field hockey team, multiple conference recognitions for both field hockey and track, 3 most valuable track athlete awards, and my senior year was named Female Athlete of the Year. I now continue my athletic career at Adelphi University as the starting hockey goalie. My point in sharing these accomplishments is not to boast of my high school glory, but to show a point that I was a successful member of the Skowhegan athletic community. I hold a lot of respect and gratitude for these programs I was offered by the Skowhegan school system. However, I attribute absolutely none of my success or pride to the Indian mascot this district so blindly holds on to. I choose to place my pride in the administrators, coaches, and supporters of Skowhegan. In fact, the realization that so many members of this community insist to hold on to such a prehistoric view makes me resent the programs that have brought me so far. I carefully have chosen the word prehistoric because we are in the 21st century. I mean, it is literally 2019, and here you all are fighting for your opinion on whether or not we should keep a mascot that is a name given to Native American people that, first of all, isn't even geographically correct, and second of all, is offensive. I recognize that there is an argument that why does this need to be changed after it has always been this way, or this change has been voted against so many times already, but that is just the point. It has been so long. So many years of throwing this to the side and turning a blind eye to a group of people that has already been given the short end of the stick time and time again since the birth of this country. It is important to understand this is not a new fight brought on by a bunch of liberals. We are, as my past ER teacher would say, missing the bus when we could have been driving it. To explain this to people who are not lucky enough to be taught by Mr. Ross, I mean that we are sitting behind and watching a movement that we could have led. Schools all over the United States have been voting against the Indian mascot for almost 50 years now. I know everyone here has heard of Stanford University, but perhaps you aren't aware that their mascot was Indian until 1972, when it was changed to the Cardinals. This is far from a new fight. Let us make
Up next is Karen Luthi. On deck is Pearl Benjamin.
Hi, my name is Karen Luthi. I'm from Camden, and I'm also founder of Suit Up Maine. I reached out to the principals of Maine schools that have retired their Indian-themed mascots to ask if they would like to share any insight about their transition process. Although many were not able to respond over the holiday break, a few did get back to me and had some information that I thought you might find useful. And I'd also encourage you all to reach out to your counterparts in those school districts that have already gone through this process and have learned a lot. The superintendent of Sanford Schools and the principal there shared their transition timeline with me, as well as their internal guidelines for selecting a new mascot, and I've included that for you here. I asked Sanford principal Matt Peterman, what were the greatest challenges to your transition and how did you overcome them? And he said, the alumni did not like the change, nor did many community members. We had to educate people. You will never make everyone happy during this process. I also asked him what parts of their transition process went well and what they would have done differently. Principal Peterman said, realistically, we probably should have done it sooner and done more in the lines of educating people on the insensitive nature of the old mascot. Old Town Principal Scott Gordon told me, the most important thing to focus on is your kids and the understanding that they need a mascot that they can rally around and be proud of without being in the middle of a feud which is likely adult-centered. In addition, keep in mind, this too will pass. It is a big issue in your community right now, but after a while things will settle and you will move. We have, and we now have kids who have only known us as coyotes for their entire lifetime. You will get there.
On deck is Iris Luce.
Hi, I'm Pearl Benjamin. I'm from Camden, and I'm a co-founder of the Maine Teen Advocacy Coalition. I would like to read passages from the executive summaries of 2 reports that evaluated the research on how American Indian nicknames and mascots impact young people. As you listen, I urge board members to reaffirm their commitment to making decisions that impact the well-being of students that are based on solid research and scientific principles, not sentimentality. The 2013 report by clinical psychologist Michael Friedman states, tests have shown that the presence of Native American mascots results directly in lower self-esteem and lower mood among both Native American adolescents and young adults, as well as increased negative attitudes towards Native Americans among non-Native Americans. Importantly, these effects occur regardless of whether the Native American mascot is considered offensive. In part because of the stress experienced in the form of ongoing discrimination, Native American people exhibit the highest level of psychological distress of any other group in the nation. The Native American suicide rate has risen by an alarming 65% in the last decade alone. When considering the dire consequences associated with such mental health conditions, anything that causes additional stress and increased suffering, loss of productivity, loss of functioning, or further loss of life among Native Americans, and is preventable, must be considered a public health priority. The 2014 report by the Center for American Progress states, racist and derogatory team names have real and harmful effects on American Indian people every day, particularly young people. Research shows that these team names and mascots can establish an unwelcome and hostile learning environment for American Indian students. And just as importantly, studies show that these mascots undermine the educational experience of all students, particularly those with little or no contact with Indigenous and American Indian people.
Up next is Iris Luce. On deck is Donna Conkling.
Hi, my name is Iris Luce. I'm also a co-founder of the Maine Teen Advocacy Coalition. Based on the results of research showing that American Indian nicknames, mascots, and related imagery are harmful, many national organizations and agencies have issued resolutions calling for an end to their use. These are just a few of them. The National Congress of the American Indian, the National Indian Education Association, the Association of American Indian Affairs, the National Education Association, the National Collegiate Athletic Association, the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights, the American Psychological Association, the American Sociological Association, the American Counseling Association, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the United Methodist Church, the American Anthropological Association, the Modern Language Association, and the North American Society for the Sociology of Sport. Thank you.
Thank you. Up is Donna Conkling. On deck is Will Niels.
My name is Donna Conkling. My home is Skowhegan. I have been connected to Skowhegan and Canaan for almost 50 years. As an optimistic person, I see the arc of history ever moving forward toward light, truth, and love. Sadly, our Skowhegan students today do not have a mascot. They have a word, one, though chosen with good intentions, now is heavy with the weight of the past, both good and bad. As a physician, I sometimes had to ask my patients, do you want me to remove this bandage or these stitches quickly or slowly? Which will hurt you less? Invariably, they would answer, get her done, doc. Inevitably, change will come, either quickly or slowly, which will cause less pain, less damage. If my two sons, who were well launched into the world by Skowhegan High School several decades ago, were here today, they would say, get her done. Look to the future. It is what the next generation does. Our students today deserve a mascot they can fully engage with, one that prances around the football field, causing laughter and leading crowd-rousing cheers. They need a mascot that can carry them into the future, full of pride in the goodness and strength of our wonderful Skowhegan community. Thank you very much.
Next up is Will Niels. On deck is Lisa Widoff.
Good evening. I grew up drinking Pease Brook water on the east side of the St. George River Valley in Appleton, northern Knox County. No running water, no indoor plumbing, no electricity. My name is Will Niels, as you've heard. I am a white Mainer, a Granger, and a singer in an alt-country band. I am sad and ashamed that this residue and remnant of racism is still taking place. The same racism that stole children from their families and community for well over 100 years. My friend John was stolen by state men with his 8-year-old brother from his grandmother's lawn when he was 6 years old. They took him to an institution, shaved his head, put chemicals on him to de-lice him. He was beaten by white people for the next 10 years until his, quote, graduation. There are over 1 million white Mainers in this state. This mascot shames each and every one of us. It isn't even factual. Indians are from India. If you wanted to be honest, you could call yourselves the Skowhegan settlers. That's all white people will ever be in this land. A handful of white people claim this word honors indigenous native people. They're wrong. Would the Skowhegan blacks honor African Americans? I think not. All legitimate relationships are based on mutual respect. When one tells another their actions are disrespectful and painful, they should be heard and respected. We learn and we rearrange our actions accordingly. It is time to do that here. It is our job and our destiny as we walk together into a future that we can all be proud of. We don't need to feel guilty about anymore. To be able to take and accept the mistakes we've made and rearrange accordingly. All Native and white people know what to do when they see a deer down on the ground that's been gut shot, kicking. They put it out of its misery and suffering. I ask you to do that for all of us here in Maine. Put a bullet in this one and end this fiasco.
Up next is Lisa Widoff. On deck is Peter Baldwin.
My name is Lisa Widoff, and I live in Freedom, Maine.
I support the request of the Maine Wabanaki tribal communities to retire the Skowhegan Indian mascot for several reasons. As others have said, it's viewed as harmful and disrespectful of the group of people the mascot intends to symbolize. All of us have experienced saying or doing something that was considered hurtful to another. We may respond with, "I didn't intend to hurt you." But this does not change, as many others have said, the experience of the individual or the group. Validating that experience is necessary before there can ever be a healthy discussion of this issue. The point here is that the continuation of the Skowhegan Indians mascot is harmful. This harm extends to the students. What impact this debate has on youth and their future leadership. In my work life, I run a fellowship program for graduate students in supporting their leadership. What kind of model are you going to set for them? Is it inclusive? Is it a racist past or an inclusive future? Will this be an opportunity for the community to transform and integrate an appreciation of the Native American history of this area, which, by the way, is best accomplished by including them in a discussion of what such representation looks like? Or will it continue with limiting, degrading, offensive symbols to characterize that past? And so what kind of harm is caused by a symbol? I'm Jewish, and I see we have very little time left, but think about racial epithets. Think about these stereotypes. I know I have experienced it myself, and it's not just these individuals asking for a recognition for the individual harm, but it's a recognition that our system and our culture in Maine and elsewhere has minimized the value and humanity of our Native American friends and neighbors. I urge you to consider being on the right side of history in this matter, and as a citizen of the state, I hope you also support a future that will respect everyone and support the long overdue acknowledgement of the harms and trauma inflicted on Native peoples here. Thank you.
Next up is Peter Baldwin. On deck is Cynthia Soma Hernandez.
Hello, I'm Peter Baldwin from down in Brooks, and a school district that is not that far away because our emblem's up here on the wall from our school. I was a school board director a while back, and I know how challenging it can be because you have your neighbors and you talk to them, and then you sit in the seat and you hear information and you study the situation and you have to make a decision, and sometimes it's not what your friends and neighbors are talking about down in the coffee lounge. And so a lot's been said here, and I don't want to repeat. There's a lot of things that have already been said that I was going to say. Hear them again. One thing I would like to analogy that's sort of connected to the schools is like, you might remember being in classroom and somebody scratches their fingers on the blackboard and makes your skin crawl, and they ask you to stop, and if you don't, are you being cruel? You got a reminder of the golden rule now. Second that. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next is Cynthia Soma Hernandez, followed by Jeff McCabe.
Hi, my name is Cynthia Soma Hernandez, and I'd like to start out by saying I was a Bernie Sanders national delegate, and I taught school for 25 years in Newark, New Jersey. I taught English as a second language and studied very hard in the art of bilingual, bicultural education, as well as administration and supervision, having a double master's. So, as a young person, I grew up very impoverished and went through a program called Upward Bound. In Upward Bound, and I pay great honor to all the students here tonight, I had the opportunity to play a slave in many school plays. That never made me a slave, never made me a slave at all, but it made me understand slavery along with the history courses. And I urge you to do that here this high school. I think you're very much in need of it, apparently. But I think that we need to increase understanding and education and compassion. And with that, you'll have a better sense of community in Skowhegan. No one is looking for you to eliminate your history, your personal history. It's very, very formative. However, how do we move forward? 42 seconds or less. We must do the right thing. Legal scholars have spoken. People who have the alienation have spoken. People who feel the need to have this change, former athletes and current athletes. I was an athlete and I played alongside all different minorities in the city of Hartford, Connecticut, and at the school at the University of Connecticut. And I'm proud to say that living in the state of Maine, I know that we can do better, and we will do better for the future and for the posterity of our community. Thank you very much.
Up next is Jeff McCabe. On deck is Ben Collins. Thank you. After Ben will be Eileen Manglis.
Can I speak Jeff's 2 minutes too?
No.
Good evening, I'm Ben Collins. I'm a state legislator from Portland. I want to thank the local leaders for allowing us all to speak here, and thank you for waiting so long to hear all of us. I think everyone said just about everything that could be said on both sides, and I respect everyone on both sides. So I don't want to talk as a political official from Portland. It's probably the last thing you need. I like to talk about being someone from Fort Kent, actually, if you can detect my accent. And we went through a similar thing here that you're going through. We had a Native American mascot, and I actually had moved out of Fort Kent. I wasn't involved, but they went through what you're going through right now, and it was, for some people tough because we all were proud of our community and our school, and it meant a lot to us, and that was part of our identity growing up. But the community involved the students a lot, and they came to the determination that it was the right thing to do. They listened to the Wabanaki community of Maine and made that change, and I can tell you, while change is tough and you think you'll lose something, you're really not. You have a great community. I have a lot of friends here. I always enjoy visiting. And, things will be fine. We changed that mascot. The economy was great. We won some state championships, so it all worked out fine. I also want to talk as being someone who works with Native American tribes across this country, First Nations in Canada. I know the intent is good. You do want to honor Native people, but I can tell you, if anyone from here would go to visit any tribes I work with around the country, First Nations in Canada or Indigenous groups anywhere in the world, and come and say, I'm an Indian and I'm honoring you, they will not feel honored. So I hope you could listen to my perspective. I'd be glad to work with you on this. I think there's a way that everyone can walk away from this table happy, everyone in this room could walk away happy. You have a decision to make for your students. That's the most important thing. The students in the state of Maine are the investment in our future. They're our greatest resource. Please think wisely. Please consider what myself and everyone has had to say. Thank you for letting us speak.
Next up is Eileen Manglis. On deck is Kaylin Black.
Hi there, my name is Eileen Manglis. I'm from Brunswick. I appreciate that I'm from Hawaii, and although I have lived in Maine for 35 years, I am still from Hawaii, not just away from Skowhegan, but be that as it may. When I was at the meeting last month, I heard someone on the board at the end say, well, are we going to let people from Hawaii speak? What Skowhegan does doesn't only affect Skowhegan, it affects the rest of us. And we as a culture in this country are the type to say if something's happening bad over there, to go on over there and do something about it. That's our culture. If you were a farmer and someone across the road was doing something that impacted your farm adversely, you go on over there and talk to them about it. That's the way we are as people. And so, although I'm from Brunswick, what happens in Skowhegan affects me in Brunswick. It affects all of us in the state. The thought that Maine could be the first state to not have any Native American mascots is something that I would take a great deal of pride in. When I talk to people from other states and they say to me, you know, gosh, you know, you've got that Indian mascot. And some of them do. Not everyone, but some of them do. I just think what a nice opportunity it would be. I heard someone at the meeting last time say that that it's to honor. And enough has been said today that talks about how people that supposedly you're honoring aren't honored by that. So I guess I would just invite you to consider that. Thank you.
Up next is Kaylin Black. On deck is Christina Gossman.
Hi, like he said, my name is Kaylin Black. I live in Skowhegan. I have 3 children, 1 who's graduated, and 2 in the school system. I want to say thank you for letting everyone talk. I probably won't take the full 2 minutes, and certainly thank you to all the people. I don't feel like my words are quite as important and will have as much impact, but I suppose they're my words. I think it's really important to understand what marginalization means. In simple terms, it can be defined as a group of people who are pushed to the sides of society. And through this process, the groups collectively lose their cultures, their traditions, and their very voices, their very voice. It's swallowed. I'm fortunate. I'm privileged. I am privileged not to know what this feels like. I cannot truly comprehend what this kind of action would mean to me or to my family. Marginalization is somewhat dependent on geography. Different groups are marginalized in different areas of the world. In the United States, including in Maine, we have a long and shameful history of marginalizing Native Americans. This mascot is an ugly echo of a violent and awful time that we now have the opportunity to change. We need only to listen. Thank you.
Up next is Christina Gossman. On deck is Mark Rains.
Hi, my name is Christina Gossman. I live in Norwalk. I'm a graduate of Skowhegan High School, as is my brother and my daughter. I'm proud to be from the area, but honestly, I'm embarrassed by this constant fight we're having. To me, it's very simple. It's a school. It's supposed to be a safe place for our children and everybody's children. If my children were being bullied, I would look to the school and those in charge to try to do something. And the Native American youth, they need our help on this. You have all the information on the statistics of their suicide rates, the disappearance of their women. You know, we say that we're not a racist town and the mascot has been left in the past, but after the last meeting this board had, I go online in the morning and I open up my social media and I see horrible things that the adults in this community are saying about Native American women. I'm not Native American, but I'm a woman, and I was horrified at what was said about people from the Penobscot Nation. And I think we need to do the right thing to protect their children. We say we're honoring them, but it doesn't feel like we are. It feels like we're pouring salt on their wounds. And I think we should listen to them and let it go. I've heard an argument that it's because of money, that for some reason we can't afford to get new uniforms and stuff for the teams. And I just want to throw out there that maybe we can do a GoFundMe to raise money and let people like myself put our money where we speak. I would donate.
Up next is Mark Rains. On deck is Pam Ladd.
Thank you to the school board for hosting the public comment, and thank you to the Wabanaki people who first shared the land. I'm Mark Rains from Vienna. I'm I'm a psychologist serving children and families in Somerset, Kennebec, and Franklin counties. I'm a trauma advisor with the National Child Traumatic Stress Network, and I'm on the leadership team of the Maine Resilience Building Network. But I'm speaking for myself and not representing either organization nor the Wabanaki people. Choice of mascot is also a public health issue, as we started to hear, which involves toxic stress from microaggressions and resilience to stress. Two lessons we can learn from and respect in Wabanaki people. And I'll say that I'm going to end on a positive note. Microaggressions are small events and reminders we may miss, yet they're big enough to trigger a stress response that can affect our health. These events can increase risk of a variety of negative health and behavioral outcomes, costing our economy and taxes billions of dollars and undermining resilience. Many of us cope with microaggressions, but the European American word Indians can be much worse. In 1400s, the Pope authorized nations to invade, vanquish, and enslave unbelievers in Africa and the New World, whom Columbus was about to discover and name Indians. Today, this doctrine underlies our town borders and property deeds. I mentioned Wabanaki Indians being targeted for destruction at a time when teachers' salary was, well, I'll skip that and say, finally, in support of resilience, expectations of safety, self-esteem, confidence, and meaningfulness, a winner of Skowhegan's powerful hydro heritage and its paper mill, 12 other mills. Its current resilience in its paper mill and its future in milling locally sourced grains offers you the option of being known as the Millers.
Up next is Tina Stevens? Steves. Your penmanship resembles mine.
Hi, I'm Tina Steves. I live in Skowhegan. I want to thank you all for having this forum this evening. I have two children that attend schools in Skowhegan, my daughter Elizabeth, who is here this evening, and my son Samuel, who attends the middle school here. It seems like much of what I was planning to say has already been said, so I will try to keep this brief and not be too repetitive. But basically my statements come from the standpoint that the American Psychological Association has recommended that we retire all Indian mascots. This recommendation came from highly trained professionals who have seen the detrimental consequences of using native mascots. Over 100 professional organizations representing civil rights, educational, athletic, and scientific experts who through the accumulation of research have adopted resolutions or policies that state the use of Native American names and/or symbols by non-Native sports teams as a form of ethnic stereotyping that promotes misunderstanding and prejudice, which contributes to other problems faced by Native Americans. If scholarly and reputable studies are showing that there is a correlation between Indian mascots and the mental health issues of our Native American students, then why are we as a community encouraging this? We know and take seriously the studies of the impact that bullying can have on our students. So why are we ignoring the research that highlights the risks of keeping a racist mascot in our schools? I've yet to find any scholarly articles that show that there are no risks to having an Indian mascot. There are no studies that show Native Americans are not being impacted by this. I implore you to base your decision on facts. And I think we need to show that all of our students matter, including our Native American students.
Sir, if you wish to speak.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. My name is Stony Eagle. My last name is Bartlett. I'm from Dexter, but I got a long ways to travel. I got to go from Dexter to Bristol. I just want to say it's a privilege for me to be here tonight, and I've been listening to a lot of, I don't know what you call, but it's been very interesting to hear a lot of people's opinions and stories. I like to see, I don't know what you call the statue, Skowhegan. I like to see to leave it the way it is. I like to see a lot of the native culture to leave it the way it is for the next generation. Because the native people have gone through a lot. They want to prosper. They want to be given a chance. But it seems like every time they get a headway, they're always pull back. They've been through enough. They've been into residential school, the Catholic home, and been abused. So why should they have to go through this stuff again? And their grandchildren as well should have to go through this. We need peace. We need unity. We need love in the state of Maine. We need to come together as one people. Because the time is going to come, I guarantee you, each and every one of you that's sitting there and sitting here, the time is going to come. We're going to have to pull together. We're not going to have to look at, well, you're white, you're native. The time is coming, and it's coming soon. We're going to have to pull together. So thank you very much for letting me be here. Thank you.
Up next is Isaac Thomas, and on deck our last speaker, Lou McGregor.
My name is Isaac Thomas. I'm a resident of Waterville. I want to begin, as I'm sure we all meant to begin this evening, by thanking our very gracious hosts, beginning with the ambassador from Penobscot Nation, in whose sovereign lands this meeting is being held, as well as the broader Wabanaki Council. I'd also like to thank those of you who currently occupy power in this community for hosting us and for allowing all of us to speak here tonight. I'm a school teacher at Lawrence High School, and I am, with Dr. Anna Thomas, the co-advisor for the Lawrence High School Civil Rights Team. I've been sent by my school civil rights team to represent them, to join our sisters, our brothers, and our two-spirit comrades in the Wabanaki community in calling for the rejection of this mascot. We want you to know, I'm here not to address the school board, but to address you. We want you to know that we are with you. We want you to know that there is already, as tonight has shown, a movement that's much larger than Skowhegan alone, and larger than Penobscot Nation, and larger than the Wabanaki Confederacy, that includes many of us who support you, and who, if this fight is not won in the days and weeks ahead, we are willing to expand this push to win this victory in this important moment in history, to send a message to all the people who are doing so many things that harm so many of us at this time. While this is an important victory, and it's a victory that we are willing to contribute to help win, we want you to know that after this victory is won, and it will be won, if not in the days and weeks ahead, within a year or two, this is something that we will have won. But we want you to know that we will continue to join you in the movement that is going to come out of this to build a new kind of community for what it means for those of us from Maine who identify with our differences.
Hello, thank you very much. I drove up from Monroe, Maine tonight, and I'd like to speak in support of the natives who would like you to drop the mascot. And I have no special credentials, but after almost 60 years, I know what it feels like to admit that I need to change, to just make some changes, and it feels good to have some humility and make change when I sense that that's the right thing to do. It's difficult at the time. I know it would be difficult for you. I sense it would be difficult for you to make this change. But it's the right thing to do. It feels so good to do it. So just appreciate you.
I want to thank you all for being kind and courteous and for contributing this evening to this conversation. I'm now going to turn the meeting back over to Dixie Ring.
Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. We appreciate your time and patience. Tonight was an important step for us to hear opinions on both sides of the issue. Remember, all of us on the board are here because we want to do what is best for our children and their education. In addition to the regular ongoing business of the board, we have much to process on this matter. Following tonight, at a future meeting, the board will determine the next steps regarding the issue. Again, thank you for your comments and your thoughts. We are adjourned.